Hi there guys, welcome to another episode, and it's another ST150 video. So, one of the previous videos I fitted new wings and the bonnet has been painted, and as you can see, when it was in for paint, he even painted the underside of the bonnet, which just looks amazing. I do love how that looks now. But now there's one thing that is starting to annoy me with the car, and one thing that I really want to get changed, and that is all of that crap. So we're going to fit an induction kit. So this is all the intake for the air. It all comes in there, and it restricts. So basically the cold air comes in here. It goes along this pipe here, which is split to pieces. There seems to be some sort of a box down there that I think I have to get rid of. But it goes through this pipe here, the air. It goes into this box here, goes all the way along the back here, and just here there's an air filter. So it goes through that air filter, then it comes back along here, and then it goes into there, which is the throttle body, and that goes into the engine. So it has to go all the way through that first before it gets into the engine, which is a waste of time and a waste of horsepowers. So we're going to fit this. So I've bought the Ram Air cold air induction kit, as you can see there. I've also bought, while I've got everything off and I can get to them, new coil, new set of leads, new set of plugs. So we're going to fit all that. But the Ram Air kit comes with this filter here. Now I can't use that. I do know that that is not usable in Sweden. So we've got that pipe there, and we've got that little bag there. But I'll get into that in a few minutes. What we're going to do now is take everything off. What we're going to do now is take everything off, and then we'll go through the kit piece by piece as we fit it, and we'll do the ignition system as well as we fit it. So basically we need to get rid of this, that pipe, the air intake here, this little box, that hose, and that box that's down there that I don't really know what it does. While we've got all this out of the way, we can then get to the plugs and leads, which are poked in under there. So once all that was gone, we can get to the ignition system. We'll do that. So I'm going to start off by trying to get up those bolts there, which don't look fantastic. So I may have to drill those two bolts out to get them out, but they're not going to be there anyway, so we'll get rid of them. But that is probably going to be my first problem. So we'll start there. Right, so as I figured, they weren't going to come out. The heads I had to drill off, and when I drilled them off I couldn't get the bits out, so I ended up pulling them out, unfortunately. So that looks incredibly ugly, but I'll see what I can do to sort that out one day. So that's this little flap open, and now we can get to the rest of the system. So I'm going to start off by cutting all these cable ties off, and then we'll get rid of this and these hoses, and we can start to see what more I need to get rid of from there. So there's about 7 or 8 Torx 25 screws here. I don't know quite why there needs to be quite so many Torx screws, but there we go. And one left just there. That needs to come off. That we can get rid of because we don't need that anymore. That gives us access to the air filter. And that now gives us a bit of an insight into what happens. So the air, as I said, comes round that pipe there, goes into there, it comes along here, goes through here, goes through the air filter, and then it goes along here somewhere, and then it goes into there, and that goes into the engine. So it's a very long-winded way to get air from there to there. So we'll start off by getting rid of that clip there. Screwdriver pry it apart, get rid of that one. We can probably get rid of that one as well while we're at it. They're the two ones that are connecting that box to the engine. The other thing we need to get rid of now is this hose here. So you press that together, I think. So yeah, you squeeze that together and it pulls off, and it's just a plastic hose clipped into the front there. That needs to go. Once that's done, everything else is on rubber plugs, so we can just lift it up. And that. So that is all of that. Now we just need to get rid of the rest of it. There we go. That can go. Okay, that's that one gone. That goes out the bottom. And then that comes off. Right, so there's all the parts that we've taken off, and pretty much everything is going in the bin. This is the part that was down at the bottom there, so it looks like it's just some sort of a resonance chamber. The air just goes in there, well, it just goes in there and comes back out again, basically. You've got the pipe to that little box on the side of the air filter box, the tube that goes to the inlet manifold there and to that box. This is split, as you can see, and been taped and repaired, so that is probably leaking air, like from there somewhere. So that's probably leaking air, which is giving me a bit of a bad revs. And then we've got the air filter box and the lid, so all of that lot is now scrap. So the only thing that's left now is this pipe here, which is a bit special. That pipe there goes to the back of the rocker cover on this rubber pipe. There it is. So we just get rid of that, and we don't need that either anymore. So that's the last piece of the part that we don't need anymore. So let's have a look at how the ram air system works. Well, basically, this is where your air is now going to go in. It's not going to go through all that stuff over here and go into there. What it's going to do is have a 90-degree elbow on it, and then the elbow connects to a filter, and that's it. So the air is going a lot more efficiently straight into the engine. That fits onto there like that, and then the air filter just goes in there, something like that, obviously. The only other thing we're going to do now, while we're here, we've got the coil pack, which is just there. So we're going to unscrew the coil pack, we're going to take the plug leads off, and we're going to get to the plugs. Now I have changed one of these leads, that one. As you can see, it's slightly too long. So I've changed that one already, and I have actually changed the plugs. On the way up, when I brought the car up, I did get in here and I did change the plugs. It did have a slight misfire, which hasn't really gone, so I'm going to change all the plugs, all the leads and the coil to make sure that the ignition side of the system is completely brand new. So we're going to get rid of all of that as well now while we're in here. The coil is there, and it looks like 4 Torx 25 bolts, that's all that is, and 1 electrical connector. Right, so we've got the plugs out. These are the old 4 plugs, or old, they're only probably 3 months old at most, so there's nothing really that wrong with these at all. I've gone for a set of NGK Iridium plugs. These are actually Iridium plugs, but they're only a cheap version, so I don't know really how well they are. So as I'm changing everything else, we're changing the plugs. I've got a new coil. This is a Magneti Marelli coil. The original one that I've just taken off is a Bosch coil on there, and then there's a set of leads there that are, don't know where those plug leads came from, but these ones are Bosch leads. I don't know how old the leads and the coil are, but as I'm changing the rest of the induction system to fit 4 plugs, a coil, a set of leads, and keep that as a spare, it's just good money really. It's well worth spending the money. So I'm going to change these 4 plugs now. They do sit incredibly tight. Now I only had them out, like I say, 3 months ago, but especially these two were really, really tight. They do get that way, so don't over tighten them, otherwise you'll never get them out. You'll probably break them inside the head. So they really only just need to be tightened up very, very slightly. Right, so as you see, doesn't need to be tightened up that much. Now, one question I see quite often, and I even see it with the Zetec engine that Alice has got, because this is a fairly similar engine, is what order do these go? So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 on there, and this coil is actually labelled up. So I don't know if you can see it on camera right now, but that one is marked up 1 and 4, and then you've got 3 and 2. So they're marked up 1, 4, 3, 2. So the type of ignition system that Ford uses is what's called a wasted spark. So when this engine is at TDC on number 1, it also means that number 4 is at its highest point as well. So this coil will actually fire a spark to 1 and 4 at the same time, even though 1 is the only one that will actually ignite. 4's got exhaust gases in it. So the 4 ignites, but there's nothing to ignite to, there's only exhaust gases. And that's why it's called a wasted spark. So it will fire on 1 and 4, 2 and 3, but only one of each will actually ignite. So it's a spark that doesn't actually do anything, hence the name wasted spark. So as long as you put these two on either 1 or 4, and these two on either 2 or 3, it doesn't matter which way around you put these like that. You know, you can put this as 1 and 4, but you could put 4 and 1. It doesn't matter, because it will still fire a spark on both of these at exactly the same time. And the same here, even though it's labelled 3 and 2, you could swap those two around and put 2 and 3, and it won't matter, it'll still fire. The only thing you can't do is swap this around. So 1 and 3 like that, you couldn't swap around and have 3 and 1, because then you'll get a misfire, because obviously it's trying to fire on that when that needs a spark. So those two you can turn around, and those two you can turn around, but those two you can't mix up. Right, so we'll move on to the ram air kit. So basically, you've got your ram air filter. This is a high performance filter with a net in there, and it's completely covered, so the air gets filtered nicely. It's got an elbow that fits to the filter, like that. And obviously that fits straight into the air intake, straight into the throttle body. You've got, as it's called, a cold air intake, so obviously we need to get cold air into the engine. The colder the air, the better. So it comes with this induction hose. Now that goes from the grill there, behind pretty much where that ST badge is, and it goes all the way up here, and it's going to feed straight into the air filter, so it gets cold air straight into the air filter. It does come with these nice little plastic ends. I really like how they look. I'm just a bit disappointed that they don't sit on, and I can't really find any way to get them to actually sit any better. So as soon as you put them on, and then doesn't need much before they fall off. So I need to find a better way of attaching them. Probably you can do it without them, but they do look quite nice on there, but they fall off, so can't use that. In the kit it came with 2 clamps, so obviously the clamps are for the elbow. It also now comes with another little filter and another elbow, and these parts I can't use. Now the reason I can't use those is because I'm in Sweden. Now well, you're thinking, what's that got to do with anything? Well, I do know from doing Alice's engine that venting the engine, which is what that does there, the oil gases and things like that, just to vent them out to the atmosphere is not allowed. That will fail its MOT. So there are kits you can buy that do supply a connector from there to the elbow. Now, and they do fit the air filter and the elbow and all the rest of it. And they do have these kits, but I couldn't find one that had the air filter and the elbow on it, so I think I'd have to still buy another air filter for it. So what I found instead is this little kit from do88.se, and basically that allows me to put a hole in this silicone tube and attach this silicone pipe to it, and then the end of that silicone pipe there will attach to the rocker cover, and then it will also attach to there, so that will feed the gases coming out of the rocker cover straight back into the elbow, which is perfectly okay for the Swedish regulations. So that, I can't use it. Right, so the first step is to temporarily fit the elbow into there, and that will allow me to see at what angle I need to get the hose to come out. So it needs to come out pretty much right on the bend there, so about there is where I want to have the hose to come off to go over there, so about there. Right, so included in the kit is this little pipe. Now as you can see, so everybody can see that, it's chamfered on that edge, which means it will cut. So I made a little mark with that, or I was just pushed it into the pipe. And then you need to put something behind it which is soft, so we're using a bit of wood or a hammer handle. You then put that onto the silicone hose, and then you just tap it with a hammer and it will cut through the silicone hose. So obviously I can't do that one-handed. I'll put the camera down and make a mark. Right, so I've had several hits with it and it didn't go through. So either that's not sharp enough, or I don't know really. I'm not doing it right, but I don't quite know how I'm going to do it right, but I think I'm going to find a drill and drill that. Right, I did get it to work eventually. What I needed to do was tilt it to one side and let it cut kind of half out, and then tilt it back again and cut the other half out. So now we've got a hole in there. We can now put this piece in. This piece has a rubber ring on the back. It then goes in on the back side and will come out that hole. So that is how you put it together. I just need to now tighten that down. So as you can see, it's not quite sealed on the back there, and it's not quite sealed on the inside there. So I need to tighten this down now with a spanner or something, and that is then ready to fit back on the engine. Right, so that is the cold air intake now fitted. Now, not much more to say about that. The hose is on there. I need to get a hose clamp for that because I don't have one, so I need to get one of them. And then we're going to drag that all the way around there, and we'll put it into there. Now I am going to reuse this angle, so I can put that onto there, and then I can get the hose to fit onto that angle. So it'll make it a little bit neater onto there, but that is pretty much done. So all I need to do is cut that off about there, and then that will go onto that angle there, and it just wants a clamp on there. And then we just have to fit the air intake for this now, the cold air intake for that. So I'm going to cut that off, attach it, and then we'll start feeding the other hose up to there. Right, so now we've got the car up in the air, we need to get probably back there, so here somewhere, the hose fitted there, and then we'll take it up the top there. So just there we can see where the cold air can come in, and then we can bring it up through the bottom of the engine there and pointing it up towards the air filter there and attaching it to whatever we can find with some cable ties and stuff. But up there Just there is our air filter. Only one thing left to do now then. Start it up and make sure it works. So I've just turned the ignition on, started the car up, seems to run and drive all right, but I'm now getting a fault on the engine steering system, I mean the ECU, the electrical system. I've also got the ABS light on, I've got the traction control light on, the engine warning lights on, and the transmission lights flashing. I'm a bit of a loss here, I don't know what's happening. Right, so I'm on my phone now then. I've driven the car home. After about 4 meters, the lights that were on here have switched off, but the engine warning light's still on. So when I've come home, I've got the PC out and we're having a look at ForScan. Now it's been a long time since I used ForScan, so I'm going to try and connect it to the car and see if I can find out what that fault code is. But I think that fault code there is probably something like it didn't start properly, or it's getting too much air because it is all of a sudden. So I don't think that's got anything to do with it, because the engine runs and drives fine. I haven't done anything that would put an engine warning light on. So I think it's just like a ghost thing, and I could probably just take the battery off, put the battery back on again, and that light would go off. But I'm going to have a look to see what fault codes come up in ForScan, and that might give us a hint as to what it is that it reacted to. So I'm going to get ForScan started and I'll get back to you. Okay, so we seem to be on to a few of the modules in there, so let's go and read the trouble codes. So just going through a load of the fault codes here, it seems to say that things like the invalid data for vehicle speed, I'm getting a few times, invalid data for odometer. Then when we go down to here, I've got the ABS fault codes, which says the right rear wheel speed sensor input signal is missing, or the signal is not plausible. So that's the right rear. We've then got the left rear saying the same thing, the left front saying the same thing, and then a DTC code that's up there. So that seems to me to say that the engine was running at one speed, but the wheels and the ABS sensor was running at a different speed, which would have given me the ABS and the transmission lights and all that sort of stuff. So it looks like all of these were kind of fault codes because of the fact that I started it while the car was in the air. So I think that I should be able to now, if I remember how to do it, erase all these fault codes. It should turn the engine management light off and it shouldn't come back on again. And then I believe that that one there is reset the diagnostic trouble code, so I should be able to, yes. Okay, it wants me to turn the ignition off and then back on again. Change the CAN switch. Okay, so what we can see there is we've got a lot less fault codes. The only one I'm getting now is a PCM 1063 code. Powertrain one, the system readiness test is not complete. So there's an additional fault symptom, signal is above maximum threshold. I think that, again, that's just a fault code that I can get rid of. Okay, so start the engine, and the engine management light has now gone off. So the fault code has now gone away. It's still giving me a fault code there that it doesn't seem to be able to get rid of it, but I think giving it a drive and it'll probably disappear. Right, so a quick Google search says to me that the code there, P1063 for Ford Fiesta, is that the, as you can see at the top there, it says the system readiness test has not been complete. So what that basically means is that the engine needs to be run through certain cycles, so motorway, town driving, getting up to temperature, cooling down, changing gears, giving acceleration, braking, all that sort of thing needs to be done for it to have done that test. Once it's done that, that code will disappear. So now we've got no codes left on there. We've got an engine management light there now, but as soon as you start the engine, it disappears. So that's all sorted. So that's it for this video. In a upcoming video, we're going to be doing more things for this car. I've got some bodywork stuff still to do. I've got to sort out some kind of a winter wheel-ish. I mean, I've got the 17-inch wheels that came with the car. They aren't in fantastic condition, so I probably need to get them cleaned up and painted. But then I can't find studded tyres in that size, so what I'm looking at is to get a smaller size wheel, probably like a 15-inch, because then I can have more, let's say, normal size winter tyres, and they're a bit easier to find. So something like that I'm looking for. I want a set of 15-inch alloy wheels and some proper tyres for that to use in the winter. It's not desperate just yet, but we're getting towards winter, so I'm going to need to do it fairly soon, but probably a month or two before I actually have to do it. And if I don't have them, it's not a huge problem. I can actually put this on the driveway and just leave it, and I can take Alice, because she does have winter tyres with studs in them. So I can run Alice until I've got something, and I'm not desperate to run this car at the time, which is good to have two cars. One thing I do have coming up shortly is the Focus. Now, it's been a while, a very long time since I've done anything with the Focus, but now I've got the ST, I've also got Millie, I've got Alice, and I've got a Mini, a proper Mini, which if you've not seen the videos of these cars, go and have a look at them. But I've also got the Focus, so that means I've got 5 cars now, and not even I need 5 cars. I mean, I need to get rid of 1. 4 cars, yeah, 4 cars is the limit. I think everybody will agree with that, won't they? So yeah, I need to get rid of the Focus. I don't need it. I don't need a big car. It's just 90% of the time me in the car going to work, and I have very short distance to work now, so I don't need a big car. So I want to get rid of the Focus, so I have to do a couple of bits to that. Some bits have already been done, but I've got a couple of bits to still be done, and then that's going out for sale. So if you're looking for a 1.6 diesel, it's a 2015 model, I think. The 1.6 diesel, and it's a titanium, so it's got all the bells and whistles, and it's got the working GPS in it as well. So it does have the maps in it as well, which works, and that's a really good feature to have, actually. So that's coming up for sale fairly shortly, so I need to get some stuff done to that car. So I'll try and make a video out of that, and we'll see how we go from there. So if you like anything you've seen in this video, please press that like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video, which will be in a couple of weeks. But thanks a lot for watching, and bye-bye.